Start recording. Camera choose. Stop recording. Button. Voiceover off.
Good day, everybody. How are we doing today? What is it? Hold on. There we go. It's Thursday, April 20-something, 29th. And we are back with another version of the NRBC. That's the Neil Residence Book Club. We switched last week and tried a new series called My Weird School, and we have a few more of those floating around. We've got one or two more Here's Hank ones. So, here's one of, if not the, I think there might be one more after this, Here's Hank one. It's called Here's Hank, Robot on the Loose. And as per the usual, it's by Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver and illustrated by Scott Garrett. Mercifully, for those of us reading it, and those of you listening to me try and read it, it's only in one volume. So, hallelujah for that, right? Anywho, let's get the show on the road, because I got a class at 3. Here's Hank, Robot on the Loose. Chapter 1. Attention all students, the voice on the school loudspeaker boomed. It was Principal Love. We have just cleaned out our lost and found and discovered 37 single shoes, he announced. A lot of you must be hopping home. If you are missing a shoe, please hop to Miss Croc's desk in the front office. I looked down at my feet. I'm the kind of kid who would lose a shoe, but this time, it wasn't me. I'm proud to report that I had 2 matching blue shoes. Of course, my socks didn't match. One was yellow and one had stripes. I can only get so many things right at one time. We also found half a pickle, Principal Love went on, but the owner does not have to come and pick that up. Hey, Zip, my best friend Frankie Townsend said with a laugh. I bet that's yours. Frankie has known me since we were babies. Anyone who has been around me that long knows that I'm a huge pickle fan. My grandfather, Papa Pete, and I always share a pickle when we have something serious to talk over. He says pickles clear the brain. The recess bell rang and we all got up and headed for the door. But then we realized that Principal Love had more to say. I should have known. He always has more to say. Let me remind you that Friday is our Build a Robot competition, he announced. This year, the competition is open to our 2nd and 3rd graders. We have made a special category for beginning builders. You can power your robots simply with a motor and a remote control. No need for computer skills. Isn't that exciting? It'd be more exciting if he said that we could have the rest of the week off school, I muttered. I'm looking forward to seeing all of your dazzling creations, Principal Love went on. Until then, this is your principal and my pet frog, Fred, saying, Ribbit. That is all. My other best friend, Ashley Wong, cracked up. She thinks it's so funny that Principal Love is always putting Fred on the loudspeaker. Principal Love thinks that just because he understands frog talk, the rest of us do too. Ashley, Frankie, and I riveted all the way on down the hall. I'm going to enter the Build a Robot competition, I said as we walked down the stairs. You can't just enter, Ashley said. You have to sign up on the bulletin board outside Principal Love's office. Okay, I'll do that after recess, I said. You better do it right now, Frankie answered. I know you, and you know you. I forgot. Is your middle name? We stopped outside Principal Love's office door. There was a bulletin board with a pencil on a string. I took the pencil and proudly wrote Hank Zipzer on line 10. It's official, I said to Frankie and Ashley. I can Hardly wait. I have some great robot ideas sitting right here in my mind, in between my phone number and last week's spelling words. All I have to do is build my little robot. Hank, you're not being realistic, Ashley said. That robot contest was just announced a month ago. All the other kids have been building their robots for weeks. So, I said, I'll work fast. I'll just give the old zipzer attitude going. Hank, Frankie said, the contest is on Friday, as in the day after tomorrow. So I'll work extra fast. You can't build a whole robot in a day, Ashley pointed out. Oh yeah? Just watch me. I'm going to start collecting robot parts right now. We walk out onto the playground. I looked around at the swings and slides and handball court and sandbox and benches. I didn't see one thing that looked like a robot to me. What I did see was a kid I had never noticed before. He was sitting by himself on a bench along the fence. He looked like any other third grader, except he was wearing a tie and a vest, which was all buttoned up. The reason I noticed him, aside from his weird clothes, was that he was building a robot. The robot had 4 silver rods for legs and a long tail that swayed back and forth. The kid was taking something that looked like a head out of a shoebox. We stood and watched him for a minute as he attached the head to the body with the smallest screwdriver I'd ever seen. Wow, I said to Frankie and Ashley, that guy seems like a robot expert. Let's go see what he thinks and what he's doing. I bet he'll give me some tips. We walked up to him and I introduced myself. Hi, I said. I'm Hank Zipser, and these are my best friends, Frankie and Ashley. I waited for him to say hi, but he didn't even look up. He just kept turning the screwdriver like we weren't even there. That's a really cool robot, I went on. Nothing. No answer. I looked at Frankie and Ashley, and they shrugged. I'm entering the robot contest too, I said. Jaden, he said suddenly. Excuse me? I'm Jaden. Oh, nice to meet you, Jaden, I said. I just came over to see if you had any tips on robot building. There was a long silence while he continued to focus only on his robot. None of us knew what to say, so I said the first thing that came to my mind. Your robot looks like a dragon, I said. Does it breathe fire? Jaden stopped what he was doing and looked up at me for 1 second. Dog, he said. It breathes dogs? I answered. That's weird. Maybe it breathes mini dogs, Frankie said. Yeah, like little hot dogs, Ashley added. If you're hungry, you push a button and it spits out a mini hot dog. We all cracked up, except for Jaden. I wondered why he wasn't laughing. I mean, let's face it, a robot spitting out mini hot dogs is funny, but not to Jaden. He just reached into the shoebox and pulled out another screw. Okay, I said to him, obviously, talking is not your favorite thing, so we'll be going. Just as we turned to leave, Jaden started to talk. Specifically, he blurted out, this robot is an Alaskan Husky. I am wiring it to bury bones, which is a behavior that many huskies use to protect their food. Hey, that's more like it, I said. Maybe this kid was more talkative than I thought. Listen, I said, I know I'm a little late getting started, but I'm going to build my robot too. I could really use any tips you could give me. You need to begin with a blueprint that has all your technical data, he said. You'll need a protractor, a sharp pencil, and all your math skills. When you begin the building stage, of course, you'll need the proper number of wires plus your robot's body parts. Then simply choose the right motor, the correct size batteries, and your remote control method. That's all there is to it. My brain walked away before my body did. Okay, I said, so thank you so much. That was really helpful. As we walked away, Frankie looked at me and said, exactly how much of that did you understand, Hank? Exactly 0, I answered. So, you've decided not to enter the robot contest, Ashley said. I think that's a good idea. You could try out for the school play instead. No, I'm not quitting, I said. I'm just going to do it my way. And what way is that? Frankie asked. That was a good question, and I had no answer for it. Chapter 2. 5 ideas for how to build a robot my way by Hank Zipser. 1. Rent one from an open all-night robot store. Oops, there aren't any of those. 2. Dress up my sister's pet iguana, Catherine, like a dino robot. Catherine would probably hiss and run right up the judge's pant leg. 3. Dress up my sister Emily like a robot. Actually, I wouldn't have to do a lot of dressing. Number 4. Forget I ever said anything about entering the contest. Nope. I said I was going to build a robot, and well, number 5. Don't have time for number 5. I have to go build a robot. Chapter 3. Frankie and Ashley and I all gathered around my dining room table after school that day. Welcome everyone to the first official planning meeting for how to build my robot, I said, making my voice sound big and serious. Hank, why are you making an announcement? Frankie asked. It's only us. I wanted to remind everyone why we're here. We remember why we're here, Ashley said. Actually, I was reminding myself why we're here. I forget things very easily. So, the meeting will now begin. What do we do next? Frankie raised his hand. Yes, Frankie, I said, calling on him. How about if you get started, he suggested. Ashley and I are here to help you. Excellent idea. I waited for a minute, then said, I just wish I knew how to do that. I think you need to make a blueprint, Ashley said, like that kid, Jaden, said. That was also a good idea. Except none of us knew what a blueprint was. Just then, my dad came in from the kitchen, carrying a plate of celery sticks stuffed with cream cheese. I made a snack for you kids, he said, grabbing a couple sticks for himself. Thanks, Dad, I said. By the way, do you happen to know what a blueprint is? Certainly, he answered. It's a drawing you make before building something. It gives you a plan to follow. Why didn't Jaden just say that? We had to make a drawing. I wondered, what's with the blueprint thing? He always uses big words, Frankie said. My brother's in 3rd grade class and says nobody can understand him when he talks. Mostly he hangs out by himself and doesn't have any friends. He must be so lonely, Ashley said. Well then, maybe he should try using shorter words so people can understand him, I said. Anyway, all this talk about Jaden isn't helping me make a blueprint. If you're going to make one, you'll need paper, a ruler, colored pencils, and a protractor, my dad pointed out. I have no idea what a protractor is, Dad, except the word is fun to say. It's like a ruler used to measure angles, he explained. It's shaped like a half moon. Oh, that thing on my desk I've been using as a back scratcher. Frankie cracked up. Well, how about getting all that stuff from your room? He suggested. Let me go get the supplies, my dad said. If Hank goes to look for them, we might never see him again. He turned to me. Remember yesterday when you went to change your shirt before dinner? You got lost reorganizing your desk drawer, and we had to come get you. Hey, I can't help it if I like to keep my desk drawer neat, I said. Neat, my dad said. There's nothing neat about your room. Some of the dirty socks lying around your room have been there since you were 3. Frankie laughed loudly. I had to admit, it was kind of funny. My room looks like that too, he said. There's a pile of socks in the corner so high, Mom calls it Sock Mountain. Picking up socks and throwing them in the hamper is so annoying, Ashley said. My room looks like it snowed socks. Guys, I said, listen to what we're saying. There's the robot idea. I'm going to build a sock picker-upper robot. This is going to change the lives of kids all over the country. I gotta hand it to you, Hankster, Frankie said. That is a great idea. You could sell them, you know, Ashley chirped, pushing her glasses up on her nose. Every kid is going to want one. Frankie and I will help you sell them. We'll start with our school, Penn City. I can already see the billboard in Times Square. Whoa there, kids, my dad said. Just build the first one. Then you can think about building billboards. My dad went into my room to get the supplies. While he was gone, Ashley, Frankie, and I talked non-stop about my robot, which had suddenly become our robot. They were just as excited as I was. It has to have big claws to pick up the socks, Frankie said. And long arms so it can reach under the bed, Ashley's added. And a nose clip like the ones swimmers use so it doesn't pass out from the stinky socks, I concluded. It was really exciting to have so many ideas coming all at once. When my dad came back in with the pencils, ruler, protractor, and a big piece of white construction paper, we were ready to draw a blueprint. There you go, he said. Don't make it too complicated, because remember, you do have to build this thing, and you don't have much time. We took our pencils on either side of the... We took our places on either side of the table, but when we tried to put the paper in the middle, there wasn't enough room. My dad's computer, notebooks, and mechanical pencils took up most of the table. No offense, Dad, I said, but your work stuff is kind of in our way. Hank, can I just point out that you're in my workplace? How about if you and your work... How about if today your workplace is the kitchen table? I suggested. Wouldn't that be fun? You could type on your computer with one hand and open the refrigerator with the other. I happen to know there are some of your favorite ice cream sandwiches in the freezer. Okay, Hank, my dad said. I know you're in a time crunch, so I'll let you kids work here. I'll move my stuff into the kitchen. Thanks, Dad. After he left, we each picked up a pencil. Mine was green, because it's my favorite color. We all just sat there, staring at the paper. No one drew even a line. We can't really design this robot if it doesn't have a name, Ashley said. So, what we need is the name of a great sock picker-upper, Frankie said. We can name it after my grandmother, Rosalie. She was great at picking up socks with her cane and flicking them into the hamper. From the kitchen, I could hear the refrigerator door opening. My dad was already into the ice cream sandwiches. That gave me an idea. How about Stanley, after my dad, I said. As far as sock picker-uppers go, he's right up there with the best of them. And besides, he did give us his workspace. Ashley said. Maybe... Stanley the robot. I like it. Sounds good to me, Frankie agreed. Sounds good to me too, my dad shouted from the kitchen. We all high-fived. Stanley it was. Our robot had a name. All he needed now was legs, arms, a head, a motor, and a body. In other words, everything. Chapter 4. We had been working on our blueprint for almost an hour and had finally finished something that looked like a face. Well, it didn't look like a human face, more like a combination of a fish and a kangaroo. If you can imagine that. Stanley's kind of ugly, Frankie commented. But in an adorable kind of way, Ashley said. When we started to design the body, poor Stanley got even weirder. He had a long chest and wheels for legs. The wheels turned out to be square because I used a ruler to draw them. I didn't think about the fact that rulers only go in a straight line, not in circles. Sometimes I don't plan ahead. My dad always says, if you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. He says that almost every night when it's bedtime and I still haven't finished my homework. Frankie and Ashley didn't mind the square wheels. We know what you mean, Frankie said. Everybody knows that In real life, wheels are round. Of course, that's exactly when my know-it-all sister, Emily, walked into the dining room and shot a glance at our robot design. I bet Hank drew those square wheels, she said. He doesn't even know what a wheel is. At least I don't have a scaly iguana with a mile-long tongue riding around on my shoulder, I shot back. Catherine looked me right in the eye and hissed. Then, her little legs pushed off Emily's shirt and she flew through the air, landing smack on top of our blueprint. "Hey, Emily," Frankie said. "Tell your lizard to move. We're doing serious work here. I've got a sock picker upper robot to build." "Catherine is very curious," Emily said. "I'm sure she just wants to get a good look at your robot plans." "Are you saying your lizard can read?" Ashley asked. "Who are we to know?" Emily said. "They're very intelligent creatures." "Well, your intelligent creature just pooped a pile of green stuff all over Stanley," I said. Emily broke into a big smile and reached to pick up Catherine. "Good girl," she said. "You remembered to use the paper." Turning to us, she added, "I told you she's very intelligent." "Well, so much for our blueprint," I said. "I'm not getting anywhere near it now." "That's okay," Ashley said. "We all know what we have to do to build Stanley. Let's go find the parts." "We can start in the kitchen," I said. "There's lots of cool stuff there." As we got up from the table, Emily started to follow us. "Sorry," I said to her. "This is for humans only. So I guess that leaves both you and Catherine out." "Fine," Emily said. "We have better things to do anyway. Catherine and I are going to the bathroom for our afternoon toothbrushing session." "Great. Maybe you can potty train her while you're in there." "Maybe I will," Emily said. "Then she'll be ahead of you." That did it. We left and went into the kitchen. My dad was sitting at the table with 2 ice cream sandwiches, wrappers, beside his computer. "How are the plans coming?" he asked. "Catherine had an accident on them," Frankie explained. "So we're moving right into the next stage, building Stanley." My dad raised his eyebrows and chuckled. "It's nice that you named your robot after me." A big smile broke out across his face. I wonder if this was a good time to ask him if we could move my bedtime from half an hour later. But there wasn't time, because Frankie and Ashley already had all the kitchen drawers open. "I think we should use the spoons for Stanley's arms," Frankie said. "Yes," Ashley agreed. "Spoons will be good for picking up socks." "Don't use our good silverware," Dad said. "Your mother will be very upset if 2 spoons are missing." I searched around the drawer and at the very back found a baby spoon with a pink polka dot handle in the shape of a kitchen. "Okay. I remember this," I said. "It was Emily's kitty cat spoon. She couldn't say spoon, so she called it her oon. That was when she was still cute." "Let's use it," Ashley said. "We want Stanley to be colorful and cute." Well, he won't be so cute if he only has one arm, Frankie said. And it looks like you Zipzers are out of baby spoons. I opened the drawer my mom calls the one of everything drawer. It's where she puts stuff that doesn't have a place anywhere else. There's one battery, one hammer, one chopstick, one rubber band, and one instruction book on how to use the ice maker. Luckily, there was also a baggie filled with plastic forks that came with our takeout meals. Bingo! Frankie said. We now have Stanley's other arm. One of those forks can hold the sock in place while the spoon scoops it up. But Hank, don't you think Stanley's arms should match? Ashley said. Not my robot, I said. Stanley's one of a kind. I could hear my dad chuckle from the kitchen table. You bet I am, kids, he said, grinning. Spread it around the neighborhood, will you? I hope this plastic fork is strong enough to hold the sock, Frankie said. Let's test it out, I suggested. I plopped down to the floor and took off my sneakers and socks. Whoa, Frankie said, holding his nose. You got some major boot smell going on there, Zip. I guess I should have taken a pair of clean socks out of the drawer this morning, I said, instead of picking these up from under the bed. Well, we can't let smell get in the way of science, Ashley said. We got a pair of salad tongs out of the drawer. I looked over at my dad. He was concentrating really hard on his computer screen. Ashley covered her nose with her hand, then she bent down, picked up one sock, and flicked it across the kitchen floor. Frankie held the spoon in one, and I held the plastic fork. Together, we crawled toward the sock as if we were Ashley. As if we were Stanley. Frankie slid the spoon under the sock and scooped it up. It held the sock perfectly. Spoon all clear for duty, he reported. Then he flicked the sock over to me. I speared it with the plastic fork and lifted my arm up, making a robot sound. Stanley, happy, I said. Stanley, pick up, sock. Stanley, hold nose, Frankie said. It was working. Using both spoon and fork, Stanley had picked up his first sock. We did it, guys, I said. Thanks to you, I'm on the way to winning this competition. Now let's take a snack break. I happen to know the location of 3 fun-size bags of BBQ potato chips. Are you kidding? Frankie said. There's a ton of work left to do here. Stanley only has arms, Ashley said. He still needs a body, wheels, and a motor. And a face, I said. I think he should look like a combination of a garbage truck and a triceratops. You won't find a face like that under the couch pillow, Frankie said. We have to start building. Do you think you'll be able to finish in time? Ashley asked. My brain told me the answer was no, but my zipser attitude wasn't going to let me give up. Forget the BBQ chips, I said. Come on, guys. We have a robot to build. Chapter 5. Frankie and Ashley went into my room to look for parts for Stanley's body. I went into Emily's room to see what I could find. I found a box of princess Legos that someone had given her for one of her birthdays. She had never even opened the box. Emily is not the kind of person who wants to build a pink princess castle. Now, if it had been a lizard Lego kit, she'd have built it in 2 seconds. What do you think you're doing? A voice from behind me said. I'm sure you already guessed that it was Emily's voice, even though she and Catherine had returned from the bathroom. Catherine's teeth seemed very yellow. I really need this box of Legos to build my robot, I begged. They belong to me. I know, but you've never even taken the ribbon off them. Come on, Emily. You're never going to use those Legos. What are you going to give me for them? I'm giving you the wonderful feeling of getting to help your older brother. "3 nights of you doing the dishes," she fired back. That's the deal. Normally, I would have made that deal, but I was running out of time. Normally, I would not have made that deal, but I was running out of time. Fine, I said, tucking the Lego box under my arm and bolting for the living room. Frankie and Ashley were waiting for me with a pile of things they had gathered. We got some cool stuff, Frankie said. Look, here's some pencils and some rubber bands. What are those for? I asked. Stanley's not going to write anything. The pencils are going to make his arms longer, Emily said. If they aren't long enough, he won't be able to scoop up the socks. And look at this, Frankie went on. We also took the remote control and a motor from your old yellow front loader truck. I hope you don't mind if it never runs again. That's okay, I said. Cheerio chewed off the digging bucket anyway. What good is a front-end loader without a bucket? It's like hot chocolate without the chocolate. We also took 2 wheels off your old monster truck, Ashley said. How come only 2? Stanley needs 4 wheels. The front wheels were missing in action, Frankie said, but we could get the other 2 wheels off your cement mixer. I love that truck, I said. Every time I get sick and stay home from school, Mr. Cement Mixer always made me feel better. I can't take him apart, not even for Stanley. Well, we need to find something that's round and rolls, Ashley said. Anyone have a bright idea? Golf balls, Frankie suggested. I shook my head. We don't have any. My dad says golf gives him a rash. I never asked him why. Some parent things you just don't want to know, Frankie said with a nod. How about pizza cutters, Ashley said. They're round. Too sharp, I answered. Besides, we only have one of those. Think, guys, Ashley said. What's round and rolls? Meatballs, Frankie said. A frisbee. Marbles. Donuts. A sandwich roll. Or toilet paper rolls, I said, joining in onto the list. Are those strong enough to hold Stanley? Ashley asked. Legos aren't that heavy, I answered. And besides, we only need Stanley to work for a few minutes. It's not like he's going to roll all the way across Brooklyn Bridge. Let's try it, Frankie said. It's the best idea we have. We all jumped up and raced to the bathroom. What we need is the cardboard tubes inside the roll of toilet paper, I said. So, we'll cut it in 2 pieces, wrap the pieces in Scotch tape, so Scotch tape to make them stronger, and presto! Stanley will have himself 2 front wheels. Okay, team, let's start unrolling. Wait a minute, Ashley said. What are we going to do with all the toilet paper we take off the rolls? We can't just waste it. Some poor tree gave its life for this. How about if we tear it into 2 little squares and pile it on the back of the toilet, Frankie asked. Great idea, I said. Frankie and I will make the squares, and Ashley, you make a sign that says, "Attention all zipsters. Get your toilet paper here." I'd do it, but I don't know how to spell toilet. Or attention. When we were finished, we took the cardboard toilet paper tube back into the living room, cut it in 2 even pieces, and wound a roll of Scotch tape around it. If you close your eyes, you'd have thought they were wheels, sorta. Then we sat down in a circle. Okay, I said, Project Build a Robot Part 2 is officially started. Ready, set, go! We began with the pink Legos. Using a big flat piece of the castle floor as the platform for Stanley's body, we built up his stomach and chest with lots of square blocks. Then we attached his spoon and fork arms. It was amazing to see Stanley taking shape right in front of our very eyes. Too bad he was still missing a head. We could use a head from one of those Lego people, Ashley suggested. This set comes with a princess, a knight, and some unicorns. I vote for the unicorns. You don't think Stanley will be embarrassed having a sparkling horn coming out of his head, I asked. Embarrassed, Ashley exclaimed. Of course not. Don't you know that unicorns are the symbol of success? In that case, I said, let's give him 2 horns. Or maybe even 3. Frankie dug through all the Lego pieces and came up with 2 unicorn heads. Okay, I said, let's tape them on. One thing's for sure, no one else in the contest is going to have a 2-headed unicorn sock picker-upper robot. Now that Stanley had his heads, he needed wheels. Putting wheels under his platform was a little bit hard. We had to attach the monster truck wheels to the ends of a pencil and tape the pencil onto the back of the platform. Then we did the same thing with the toilet paper roll wheels. We taped them and their pencil to the front of Stanley's platform. That gave him wheels to roll on. From the waist down, Stanley looked like a very weird steamroller. From the waist up, he looked like a crazy, two-headed, two-horned unicorn, but I wasn't going to tell him that. Now we have to attach the motor, I said, and figure out how it's going to make the wheels turn and the arms lift, Frankie added. That sounds like it could take a while, Ashley said, pushing her glasses up on her nose. Wait a minute, Frankie said. Anyone know what time it is? I have to go home for dinner at 5:30. It's my night is at the table. We checked the clock, and the news wasn't good. It was almost 5:30 now. We better hurry, Ashley said, because I have to be home for dinner too. I picked up the motor and the remote control and just stared at them as if they were aliens from another planet. What are you waiting for, Zip? Frankie asked. I don't have a clue what to do with this stuff. Neither do I, Ashley said. Me neither, Frankie said. There was a lot of silence. Suddenly, it seemed like Project Stanley was doomed. What good is a robot if it can't move? Chapter 6. Frankie and Ashley and I decided that our best chance to make Stanley come alive was to see if Jaden would help me. He seemed to know everything about robots that I didn't. Before Frankie and Ashley left my apartment, we decided to try to find Jaden at recess the next day and ask his advice. In the morning, I packed Stanley in one of my mom's grocery bags. It smelled a little like hamburger meat, but Stanley never mentioned it. Perhaps he wasn't a vegetarian, so I didn't think he'd mind. Of course, if I had been in there, all I had been thinking was cheeseburger with extra ketchup and pickles. I put Stanley's motor and remote control in... What is happening here? Control in a nest of some leftover toilet paper to protect them from bouncing around on the way to school. Ashley was very proud of the paper not going to waste. We asked my dad to walk us to school early so we could hang out on the playground and see if Jaden showed up. I think you should use the extra time to study for your spelling test, my dad said as he dropped us off at the front door. Principal Love, who greets all of us at the entrance, was, every morning, overheard what my dad said. Ah, yes, he said, spelling. Nothing thrills me like a word spelled correctly. Take receive, for instance. I'd rather not, I mumbled. R-E-C-E-I-V-E, Principal Love said. That's music to my ears. Not to mine, I said. It's just like a bunch of letters that I can never get in the right order. We scooted out of there before Principal Love could go on about the wonders of spelling words. Let's see if Jaden's on the same bench where he was yesterday, Frankie said. We hurried to the bench by the fence. Jaden wasn't there. We looked around the lunch tables and handball court and even peeked into the attendance office. The only person there was Mrs. Croc, eating a drippy egg sandwich. "Can I help you, kids?" she asked, with what looked like an entire loaf of bread wedged between her teeth. "We're looking for Jaden," Ashley said. "Would that be Jaden S. or Jaden W.?" The Jaden who has trouble talking," I said. "Not that there's anything wrong with that." "Oh, that would be Jaden W." "I really need his help," I said. "His mom called and said he'll be late today," Mrs. Croc said. "Why don't you look for him at lunch?" We went to class, and I put the bag of Stanley underneath my desk. It wasn't long before I felt Nick McKelty's stinky breath on the back of my neck. He leaned his sweaty, ball-sized head over my shoulder to peek inside the bag. "What's in there, zipper butt?" he asked. "You're playing with your teeny tiny unicorn Legos again? I haven't done that since kindergarten." Leave it to McKelty to say something mean. He's the worst bully in the school. "That shows how much you know, Nick," I said. "That happens to be the one and only sock picker-upper robot in the entire city." He let out one of his hippo snort laughs, and with it came a blast of hot air that curled the hair on my neck. "Please take your stinky breath off the back of my neck," I said, "and pant somewhere else." "People love my breath," McKelty panted. "What planet do you live on?" I shot back. We could have gone on forever, but Mrs. Flowers was already telling us to stand to pledge allegiance. It seemed like forever until lunchtime. I couldn't concentrate. On anything. Not the times tables, not the spelling words, not even the science chapter questions. Miss Flowers read to us after 3 types of clouds. All I could think about was whether or not Jaden would help me finish Stanley. I couldn't wait to see if we could get him to pick up the socks. When the lunch bell rang, Frankie, Ashley, and I were the first ones into the lunchroom. Kids were talking and laughing as they headed to their usual tables. We found Jaden sitting alone at a table in the corner, wearing his vest and tie. He was taking each baggie out of his lunchbox and carefully arranging them all in front of him so that nothing was touching anything else. "Hey, buddy," I said, walking over to him. "We've been looking for you." He seemed surprised and then went back to organizing his baggies. "So, Jaden," I said, "I really need your help. I have a major problem." "Is your motor single or double output?" he asked. That's the problem. I don't know. I don't even know what any of those words mean. Could you translate, please? He didn't answer that, just looked back down at his lunch. It was the neatest lunch I had ever seen. One little sandwich that was cut into perfect squares, one cookie, one graham cracker, a bag of grapes, and a box of apple juice. Great looking lunch, Ashley said. Every day I have 33 grapes, Jaden explained. Wow, that's a lot of grapes, Frankie said. My mom told me not to eat too many grapes at lunch, or I'll spend the rest of the afternoon in the bathroom. We all cracked up. Jaden didn't laugh, though. He just opened the baggie and started popping grapes into his mouth. So I thought I'd better get down to business. I took the motor out of my bag and unwrapped it. Then I brought Stanley out and put him on the lunch table in front of Jaden. We don't know how to connect the motor to make my robot's wheels and arms work, I began. Can you just tell us how to attach it? You'll need a 4-channel drive to get a multi-directional effect, of course, he said. Sure, that goes without saying, I nodded, even though I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. And since there are 4 joints, you'll need a Y-split servo cable, he went on. Oh boy, this was far, far over my head. A spaceship couldn't even reach it. Do you think you could explain that a little more, Frankie asked. It's really very simple once you've seen it demonstrated, Jaden said, popping another grape into his mouth. I have a great idea, I said. Why don't you come to my house after school today? Why would I do that? Jaden asked, looking up at me. It was the first time he'd actually looked me in the eye, and it was only for a second. You know, like a play date, I said. He didn't answer. Look, Jaden, I went on, I know it seems weird for me to ask for your help because you're in the robot competition too, but I don't know what else to do. My robot Stanley isn't nearly as cool as your husky robot. I just want him to work well enough so that we can go to the contest. There was another silence. I don't have play dates, Jaden said at last. Hey, dude! There's a first time for everything, Frankie said. I'll tell my mom to make sure we have lots of grapes for you, I added. I've always had 33, Jaden said. That's my limit. Come on, Jaden, Ashley said. It'll be fun. We don't bite. But it seemed that Jaden wasn't listening anymore. He was folding up his empty baggies and putting them neatly back in his lunchbox. I have to go now, he said. So, we'll see you later, I asked hopefully. He didn't answer, just got up and walked away. There goes my last hope, I said to Frankie and Ashley. Maybe not, Frankie said. He didn't actually say no. He didn't say yes either, I said. I was trying to be positive, but deep down, I knew Jaden was never going to show up. Chapter 7. Just as I thought, by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Jaden still hadn't shown up. Frankie, Ashley, and I sat around my dining room table, our faces cupped in our hands, staring at the poor half-done Stanley. My dad had played a video for us on how to install motors step by step, but after he took his computer into the kitchen, all the steps slid out of our brains like melting ice cream. We tried as hard as we could, Frankie sighed, but this motor stuff is just too hard for us. We're out of time, Ashley said, but we shouldn't feel bad. We're only second graders. I bet by the time we're in 4th grade, we'll be able to send a robot to the moon. There's always a chance that Jaden will still show up, I said. Maybe he stopped to buy some grapes. Let's face it, Zip, Frankie said. If he's not here by now, he's probably not coming. Well, that wasn't exactly true, because no sooner had Frankie finished his sentence than the doorbell rang. All 3 of us jumped up like we were on a trampoline and bolted for the door. I flung it open, excited to see Jaden, but it wasn't. It was a woman with big curly hair who looked kind of familiar. I had seen her waiting outside after school, but I didn't know her name. Are you a friend of my mom's? I blurted out. No, but I'd like to be. Are you Hank? I'm Jaden's mom. I looked to see if Jaden was behind her in the hallway, but the hallway was empty. So you came to say that Jaden couldn't make it? I tried not to let my disappointment show, but I didn't do a very good job of it. Jaden, she said to no one. Come and say hi. Hank really wants to see you. I stepped out to the hall to see who she was talking to. Jaden was standing in the corner next to Mrs. Fink's apartment door. He was trying to hide, but he also didn't do a very good job. Jaden, I screamed. You made it. Come on in. We've been waiting for you. I turned and ran into the living room, then suddenly realized that Jaden wasn't behind me. I spun around and went back to the door. Jaden hadn't moved. It takes Jaden time to get comfortable in new situations, his mom said softly. Oh, no problem, I said to Jaden. I can fix that. I'll bring you my special pillow to sit on. It's so comfortable, it'll make your butt smile. Jaden just looked at me. Then, for the first time since I met him, he burst out laughing. That was funny, he said. If you think I'm funny, wait until you hear Frankie. He's hilarious. Come on in. We've got my robot all set up, but we don't know how to attach the motor. That got Jaden's interest. Without another word, he took off and flew by me into our apartment. You can come too, I said to his mom. My dad's working in the kitchen. He's not that much fun to talk to, but at least he's a grown-up. Jaden's mom laughed and gave me a little hug. She seemed really happy. Or you could go to my sister's room and visit with her and her pet iguana, I said, but only if you like things that hiss, because they both do. I'll just pop my head into the kitchen to say hi to your father, she said. Then, if you don't mind, I'll sit in the living room and read while you kids work on the robot. I always bring a book. Jaden likes to know I'm nearby. After she came in, I raced to the dining room where Jaden had already sat down in front of Stanley. He pulled out the same little screwdriver he had with him at school. Wow, Jaden, you sure came prepared, Ashley said. Jaden didn't answer. He just took the motor and studied it, untangling 6 colored wires that came out of it. We took that motor from an old front-end loader truck of mine, I explained. Excellent, he said. Then it has lifting elements, or as you might call them, arms. Actually, we call them a plastic fork and a baby spoon, I said. It wasn't the funniest joke in the world, but it made me laugh. Jaden's face didn't change. His sole focus was on the motor. How do you know what each of those wires is for? Frankie asked Jaden. Oh, that's simple, Jaden said, without looking up. The yellow wires go to the to the robot's lifting elements. The green wires attach to the back wheels, electrical connection. The white wires attach to the connector that controls the front wheels, which seem to be made of toilet paper rolls. That's unusual. It was all we could find that was round and rolled, I explained. And we wrapped them in Scotch tape to make them stronger. He nodded and said, science is about solving problems. Jaden didn't talk much after that. He got right to work connecting the wires that went to each set of wheels. I watched him carefully. Hey, I'd like to try doing that, I said. Okay then, you attach the wires that go to the arms, Jaden said. And I did. Then I picked up the remote control to see if Stanley worked. And sure enough, he did. When Stanley moved forward and backward, I was so happy I thought my head was going to blow off. And when Stanley lifted his arms to scoop up a sock we had put in front of him, it felt like a miracle had just happened right there on our dining room table. Whoa! I yelled. Stanley lives! Ashley, Frankie, and I high-fived until our palms hurt. We tried to high-five with Jaden too, but he put his hands in his pockets. That was okay with me, though. Jaden had helped me make Stanley move, so he could do anything he wanted. And what he wanted to do was leave. I'm going now, he said. Why don't you hang out with us for a while? Frankie asked. We could have some crackers and peanut butter. I have to go, he said. Mom! His mother stood up right away, but Jaden was already on his way to the front door. Thanks so much for including them, kids, she said. You don't know how much Jaden and I appreciate your invitation. Maybe he can come back sometime and we can build something else, I said. That's a great idea, Frankie chimed in. Mom, Jaden called from the front door. We have to go. With a quick wave to us, she was off. After she left, Frankie, Ashley, and I took turns with the remote control, moving Stanley all around the table and having him practice picking up socks. It was so much fun. I could hardly wait to show him off at the next day at the school competition. I continued playing with Stanley even after Ashley and Frankie had to go home for dinner. I was so proud of my little robot, I called my dad in to show him off. Look at this, Dad, I said. He goes backward and forward, and his arms go up and down like a forklift. I can hardly wait to show Mom. Your mother is working late, my dad said. The Museum of Natural History is having an opening of the newest exhibit on dinosaurs tonight, and the Crunchy Pickle is supplying all of the sandwich platters. I didn't know dinosaurs liked plastic sandwiches. Oh, salami, where I got that. I didn't know dinosaurs liked salami sandwiches, I said. My dad didn't hear my joke. He was staring at Stanley and rubbing his chin like he does when he looks over my homework and tells me I didn't do it the proper way. Or missed the last row of math problems. Have you tried having your robot pick up an actual sock? He asked. That will be the real test. Check, I said. Stanley could do it all. Do you feel like you really learned how to build this robot? My dad asked. It's easy peasy, Dad, I said, with a little too much confidence. Sit down. I'll show you. It was really important to me to show my dad that I had learned to do this. I removed each of the 6 wires. Now, I said, all I have to do is use a screwdriver and put the wire back in its place. I put the green wires on the back wheels, and the yellow wires on the front wheels, and the white wires on Stanley's arms. All of a sudden, I had a feeling of panic. Was it green wires on the back, or did they go to the arms? And those yellow wires, did they go on the front wheels or the back wheels? It was the same feeling I get just before a spelling test. I know the words, and I don't. I took a deep breath and picked up the remote control. Just then, my dad's phone rang. Hello, he said. Oh, Charlie, I'm glad you called. He took the phone from his ear and whispered to me, Hank, I have to take this. I might be a while. I'll see your robot at school tomorrow. Now, get to your homework. No problem, Dad, I whispered back. I'm just going to mess around with Stanley for a little while longer. Homework now, my dad said, in a tone of voice you don't argue with. I took Stanley and put him into my mom's grocery bag, along with his remote control. Get some rest, little guy, I whispered to him. We have a big day tomorrow. Chapter 8. The competition was scheduled for after lunch in the multi-purpose room. I was so nervous during lunch that I didn't even eat. That's only happened to me 2 other times in my whole life. Once was before I played the big basketball championships game against PS 91. The other time was when the cafeteria was serving fish sticks that looked like they were still swimming on the plates. After lunch, I walked down to the hall to the multi-purpose room. Frankie and Ashley were by my side. They never stopped encouraging me. And I never stopped thanking them for it. You guys were with me all the way, I said. Hey, that's what friends are for, Frankie said. Stanley's gonna knock everyone's socks off, Ashley said. As a matter of fact, he already did, I answered, pointing to a girl in front of me who was wearing sneakers with no socks. We were laughing so hard, I almost dropped Stanley. Be careful there, Frankie said. Stanley's big moment is coming up. You don't want him to fall apart before he gets on stage. When we were walking to the multi-purpose room, it was buzzing with excitement. All the kids in the school were there, except for the kindergartners, because those lucky little guys get to leave school early every day. All the parents that could come to watch the competition were there, and all the teachers too. Leo, the school handyman, was sitting in the front row. Even the lunch ladies, with their hairnets still on, had shown up to watch. Those of us who had made robots got to sit up on stage in a semicircle around Principal Love. We each had our robot in our laps. Jaden was there, holding his Alaskan Husky robot that could bury bones. I wonder how he was going to demonstrate that, since the stage was made of wood. Then I noticed that he had a box of dirt at his feet. I should have known. He's the kind of kid who thinks of everything. Next to Jaden was Luke Whitman, whose robot looked like a hand with one long finger. Luke is a champion nose picker. I had a creepy feeling that I knew just what that long robot finger was for. Next to Luke was a girl whose name was... Next to Luke was a girl whose name was George Henry. She was all smiles. I would have been grinning too if I had a cool robot like hers. It looked like a ballet dancer and even had a tutu made from sparkly tinsel that people put on their Christmas trees. There were 4 other kids. They all had one thing in common. They looked pretty serious, and so did their robots. One robot looked like a car, one was a space rocket, and one was a giant ant with moving jaws. Welcome to PS 87's first ever Build a Robot competition, Principal Love said into the microphone. This is a day when we get to see how our young people have combined science with their imaginations. Wow, I actually understood what Principal Love said. Usually he goes on so long that I'm lost after welcome. I took that as a good sign that things might be going to happen good for Stanley and me. We have put the names of our contestants into a hat to see who goes first. Principal Love reached his hand into a PS87 basketball cap and pulled out a slip of paper. "George Henry," he called out. "George, come forward and show us your robot." George took her ballerina and placed it on the front and center of the stage. "Hello, everyone," she began. "My robot is named Raspberry Swirl because I love ice cream. Her talent is spinning on her toes. But here's the special part. When she spins really fast, she turns a bowl filled with cream and sugar into chocolate syrup, and it becomes chocolate ice cream." I looked down at Stanley. Suddenly, he seemed very plain. I wanted to cover his ears so he wouldn't feel bad, but then I remembered that he couldn't hear anyway, and he didn't have ears, so I covered mine instead. When George turned the motor on, Raspberry Swirl started to spin so fast that all the tinsel on her skirt stuck straight out. The bowl spun really fast, too. When George hit the stop button, she showed everyone what was inside the bowl. It wasn't exactly ice cream. It was more like chocolate ice cream soup. I think George Henry made up a brand new dessert. "Well done, George," Principal Love said, as everybody clapped. "That looks extremely chocolatey." He reached into the hat and drew out the next name. I was hoping it was me, and also hoping it wasn't me, both at the same time. It wasn't me. "Jaden W. is next," Principal Love said. "I'm sure he has something very interesting to show us." I looked over at Jaden, but he didn't look back. He walked to the center of the stage, made his He walked to the center of the stage, just staring down at the floor. I was hoping he would do really well, but there was no major problem. There was one major problem. Nick the Tick McKelty was sitting in the front row with his big mouth attached to his big stupid head. "I bet he made a weird robot," he said in a whisper loud enough for Jaden to hear. "Mr. McKelty, keep your comments to yourself," Principal Love said. A group of kids sitting near McKelty started to snicker. Jaden never even looked up at them. He just picked up his robot and ran off the stage to his mother, who was sitting in the audience. I saw her try to hug him, but he wouldn't let her. I felt bad for Jaden. I got up and walked over to Principal Love and whispered in his ear. "Jaden worked really hard on that robot," I said. "Can you please give him another chance?" Principal Love nodded. "Jaden, would you like to try again?" he said into his microphone. "We would all love to see what you've created." Jaden shook his head no. I wanted to go over to him and tell him not to pay any attention to that slime ball McKelty. But just as I stood up, Principal Love reached into the hat and called my name. My heart raced as I walked to the center of the stage. My hand was shaking so hard that I could hear Stanley rattling inside his grocery bag. I looked around at all those people in the audience staring at me. I took a deep breath. "All right, Stanley," I whispered, "it's showtime." Chapter 9. I took Stanley out of his grocery bag and held him up for all the audience to see. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages," I said, "I would like you to meet my robot, the super duper sock picker-upper. He's named Stanley after my dad." I looked at my parents, who were sitting in the audience. I was so glad that my mom could get away from work. And my dad had such a proud smile on his face. I saw him give Mom a nudge with his elbow. She gave him a pat on the shoulder. How many people here are told every day to pick up their socks and put them in the hamper, I asked. Raise. I raised my own hand. Lots of other kids raised theirs. Even a few of the parents chuckled and raised their hands. We all know that picking up socks is annoying, I said, but I, Hank Zipser, have the solution. I reached into the bag and pulled out 2 socks. They didn't match, even though I was positive I had put a matching pair in there. I placed the socks on the floor as if nothing was wrong. Then I put one of the wooden salad bowls nearby. Watch and be amazed, I told the audience. You will see Stanley pick up the socks and drop them in the salad bowl. Which is playing the part of a laundry hamper. Take a bow, Mr. Salad Bowl. The audience laughed. This is going well. Taking the remote control, I pointed at the forward button and watched for Stanley to roll across the stage to the socks. He did just the opposite. He rolled away from the socks, and when I say away, I mean far away. Correction, this is not going so well. You can't tell forward from backward, zipper teeth, McKelvey shouted. Looks like your robots got the same problem. I looked down at the remote control. I had pressed the forward button. Why wasn't Stanley listening? Seems like my little robot's got a mind of his own, I said to the audience. I was smiling on the outside, but shaking on the inside. Let's try again, okay? Come on, Stanley. I pushed the forward button all the way down with my thumb. Stanley lurched backward again, this time at full speed. He was going too fast and rolled right up on Principal Love's sneaker, and the only stopped when his wheels got tangled up in Principal Love's shoelaces. You could hear Stanley's motor whirring, but he wasn't going anywhere. Everyone was laughing at me, especially Nick McKelvey. Nice move, loser, he called. I wasn't going to let him get away with that, so I said the first thing that came to my mind. Stanley, I said, you're supposed to pick up socks off the floor, not pull them off Principal Love's feet. The audience laughed again, but this time they were laughing with me. Don't move, Principal Love, I said. I'll get this under control. I went over to him, knelt down, and lifted Stanley off his sneakers. Well, I pulled most of him off. My sister's polka dot spoon with the shape of the kitchen stayed there behind in the shoelaces. Poor Stanley was now officially missing an arm. Looks like your so-called robot's a total flop, McKelvey called out. Mr. McKelvey, if I have to remind you one more time, I will have to ask you to leave this assembly, Principal Love said. We don't make fun of others here. I just stood there holding Stanley. I was frozen. Stanley had worked so well on our dining room table. I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. I knew I had to do something. There were all those eyeballs staring at me, but what could I do? Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I saw Jaden rushing up to the stage. He came up right next to me and, without saying a word, pulled out his little screwdrivers. Taking Stanley from my hands, he sat down right there on the stage floor and started to repair Stanley's motor. Of course, that was the problem. When I rewired Stanley for my dad, I had gotten the wires all wrong. No surprise there. My brain thinks it knows what it's doing, but most of the time, it gets confused. Green wires go to the back wheels, white wires go to the front wheels, yellow wires to the arms, Jaden reminded me. This always happens to me, I whispered to him. I get everything mixed up. You have to focus, Jaden said. I'm really good at that. Here, you attach the last wire. Mr. Zipser, Principal Love said, can we expect you to continue anytime soon, or should we move on? Almost done, Principal Love, I said. When I turned back around, I saw Jaden stand up and start to walk off stage. Jaden, wait, I called out. You know what to do, Jaden said. I've left you my screwdrivers. Thanks a ton, Jaden, I whispered. Then he left the stage and returned to his mom. My hands were a little shaky as I picked up Jaden's screwdriver and attached the yellow wires to Stanley's arm. When I was finished, I turned to the audience and forced myself to put on a big smile. Stanley will now pick up a sock, and this time, using only one arm, I announced. That's how good he is. I held my breath and pushed the forward button on the remote control. This time, Stanley zipped forward, headed straight for the blue sock lying on the center of the stage. I stopped him just in front of the sock and pushed the yellow button that controlled his arms. Stanley lowered his takeout fork arm and scooped up the sock from the floor. I could hear the audience start to applaud. Now, Stanley, I called out, I want you to drop the sock in the salad bowl. Hamper. I pressed hard on the remote control button to lower Stanley's arm. I must have pressed it too hard because suddenly the remote control made a strange noise like popcorn popping. Then Stanley's arm shot up and flipped the sock high into the air. The sock continued flying through the air and landed, I'm sorry to say, right on Principal Love's nose. He looked like a puffin with an extra long beak. Everyone in the whole room howled with laughter. Everyone, that is, but Principal Love. He was reaching up with his fingers, carefully lifting my sock off his face like it was a wet noodle. Standing there on the stage, I had three thoughts at exactly the same time. My first thought was that Jaden really came through for me like a true friend does. My second thought was how happy I was that I picked clean socks so that Principal Love didn't have to smell my dirty toes. My third thought was that I probably was not going to win this contest. Chapter 10. I watched the rest of the competition from my chair on stage. It was amazing. You never know how smart and creative kids are until they have a chance to show it off. Take Ryan Chimanzo. He put a model rocket engine onto his spaceship robot and flew it all the way to the first row of chairs where his brother Bobby caught it in a butterfly net. And Gracie Maloff's giant ant robot actually chewed on a large green leaf of kale that was a real, just like a real leaf cutting ant would do. And then she made it burp. Luke Whitman's robot was classic Luke Whitman. He pushed a button and the long finger on his robot hand started to turn. Then he held the finger up to his face and, yes, put it right into his nose. I will not describe what happened next, no matter how much you ask. Trust me, I am helping you not to throw up. Principal Love ended Luke's demonstration early. "Thank you for your participation, Mr. Whitman," he said. "I think we've all seen more than enough of that. But I haven't even gotten to the snot yet," Luke answered. "My point exactly," Principal Love led Luke to his seat. "Please sit down," he said, "and here's my personal handkerchief. Do not worry about giving it back." When all of us had demonstrated our robots, Principal Love called two of the teachers up on stage to help him pick the official winner. While they were talking, everyone had to listen to Artie Higginsbottom play this land is your land, this land is our land on his violin. I could see most of the kids in the audience putting their fingers in their ears to block out the sound. Finally, the two teachers and Principal Love reached a decision. I felt excited as Principal Love came to the center of the stage, even though part of me knew I didn't have much chance of winning. The other part of me had its fingers crossed. As my dad says, it's not over until it's over. "We have chosen a winner," Principal Love announced. "For her combination of creativity, scientific thinking, first place goes to George Henry and her ice cream making ballerina robot, Raspberry Swirl." George Henry was so excited that she jumped up and twirled halfway around her chair to Principal Love. He handed her the trophy, which she kissed and then held up over her head for everyone to see. To be totally honest, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't win the big prize. Nice shiny trophy. Okay, that was only kind of honest. I was very disappointed. I could see that trophy sitting on my desk, right next to my jar of colored pencils, but as I watched George Henry twirl into the audience to hug her parents, I thought, good for her. When the audience applause for George Henry had died down, Principal Love gave out the rest of the awards. Ryan's rocket got second place, and Gracie's leaf cutter ant took third. "Too bad, Hank," I thought to myself. "Looks like you didn't win anything." But then a great thing happened. To reward all of the students who participated in our Build a Robot competition, Principal Love said, each of you will receive an honorable mention certificate with the PS87 gold seal. Wow! My ears almost jumped off my head. Certificate with a gold seal? I'd never gotten one of those before. I leapt out of my chair and marched right up to Principal Love. I'd like to say a few words, I said. A very few, Mr. Zipser, Principal Love whispered. This is highly unusual. I took the microphone. This is my first honorable mention ever, I said, and it wouldn't have happened without the help of my friends, Ashley, Frankie, and Jaden. And especially Jaden, who is a genius at robots and who really comes through when you need him. I could see Ashley and Frankie high-fiving each other. Jaden sat quietly next to his mom. I gave him my best Zipser wave. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw him wave back. When the assembly ended, I ran into the crowd to show my mom and dad my certificate. On the way, I bumped smack into Nick McKelty. It's hard not to bump into him because his mouth alone takes up most of the room. Stop flapping that stupid piece of paper around, he said to me. It looks like you're trying to fly. This happens to be an honorable mention certificate, I said, with a gold seal on it. Boy, are you a dork, McKelty said. Didn't you notice that everyone in the competition got one of those? Actually, what I did notice is that you didn't get one, I said, as I walked away and left him there with his big mouth hanging open. I felt great. Putting him in his place was as good as winning. My mom and dad were so proud of me that they suggested we all go to Harvey's to celebrate with pizza. It's only 2 blocks away, my dad said, and besides, I have a coupon to get $2 off that they sent in the mail the other day. Maybe Ashley, Frank, and Frankie want to join us, my mom suggested. I can call their parents. I didn't even have to ask Frankie and Ashley if they wanted to come. You say pizza, and they're there. As I headed for the door, I saw Jaden walking with his mom. Would it be okay if I asked Jaden and his mom to come along? I asked my parents. Dad, you did say you had a coupon. He'll probably say no, Frankie said. Ask him anyway. Hank, my mom said. Let it be his choice. I walked up to Jaden and said, hey, we're all going for pizza at Harvey's. Do you want to come? Jaden looked at me for what seemed like a long time. I only eat pizza with grapes, he said at last. That could be a problem, I said. Harvey's has pepperoni pizzas and mushroom pizzas and even pineapple pizzas, but I'm pretty sure they don't have a grape pizza. Jade reached into his pocket and pulled out a plastic baggie filled with his usual lunch of grapes. I always carry my own, he said. Well, come on then, I said. 1 grape pizza coming right up. You don't have to invite me, Jaden said. But I want to, I told him. So we all went to Harvey's and sat around a big table. Ashley, Frankie, and I insisted that Jaden put his husky dog robot in the middle of the table and give us our own demonstration. We all cheered when it dug up a big clump of Parmesan cheese from the bowl on the table. When our pizza arrived, Jaden made his robot dump the Parmesan cheese onto the pizza and put the first slice on my plate. That was pretty cool. Your son is very talented, my mom said to Jaden's mom. I've always known that to be true, his mom said. Thank you for noticing. I held up my slice of pizza and made a toast. Here's to Ashley, Frankie, and Jaden, I said. Otherwise known as Team Stanley. Jaden looked surprised. I've never been part of a team before, he said. You are now, I said. Stanley, Frankie, and I brought our pizza slices together, cheered, and then took the first bite. Jaden reached into his baggie, pulled out a grape, and put it right on the end of his slice. Then he took a bite. I saw Jaden break into a big smile, and the rest of us did too. Chapter 11. 3 things I learned from building Stanley the robot by Hank Zipzer. 1. It's good to try new things, even if they seem hard for you. 2. Those kids in your school that no one ever talks to, you should give them a chance. They could be really cool. And number 3, grapes on pizza are actually pretty tasty. The end. Well, that's a wrap for that one, and it must be pushing 3 o'clock, so it's almost time for class. Hopefully all you enjoyed that. I want to say one more Hank book to go, but there might be 2. And there might be none. And after that, we got My Weird School. And I was on the CNIB website, and I know the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books have always been a hit on here. So I ordered or requested, whatever the word is, for on there. And hopefully we'll get a few more of those coming in the next month or 2, and we'll have them maybe in time for summer, maybe before. Anywho, I'm off. Later, folks.
Voiceover on. YouTube. Camera chooser. Stop recording.